rise on television.
Jane Lockhart, welcome to our studio.
To becoming one of the most trusted names in high-end design, Jane Lockhart breaks down the mindset and business strategies behind her success.
People see in Canada the value of making their home a saleable product. New York City, no problem. Tokyo, no problem. It's a relatively new concept here over the last 15 years.
As an entrepreneur, if you could make one change, either in your industry or in the world, we're big thinkers, what would you want it to be?
Do you feel like all of these things were helpful in just creating that authority for you to be able to have a larger platform?
The formalization of design and the monetization of it was there, but not to the degree it is now, because the residential house business really wasn't as big as it is now.
The reality is you have to build what you want into existence. Unscripted, raw, real, vulnerable.
Okay, so we're here today with Jane Lockhart from Jane Lockhart Designs. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, we're so excited to have you, especially, we'll get to it later, but we just bought a house, so we've got some really important questions for you. But first, what inspired you to be a designer, and how did your entrepreneurial journey start?
I don't know if I'm going to be a good story for you in the end, but when I started, I just always knew I was going to do something creative. I didn't necessarily know that it was going to be interior design because I just didn't. When I went to school, it existed, but it didn't have the presence because there was no HGTV. No one really knew about it. So I knew I was going to do something creative. I did not go to school initially for creative. I started in economics because there was super pressure at the time you just didn't grow up and do creative things. It just wasn't that world. And I ended up going back to school and took interior design at what was formerly called Ryerson, now the Met. So I went there and took my degree there. And when I graduated, it was in a terrible recession, and I just wanted to work. I just knew I wanted to do something creative. And there was no, hey, I'm going to have a business. It was more like, I just need paid. Like, just hire me for something, you know? So I took a job where I worked at a company called Benjamin Moore. I made $3.15 an hour as I worked for them. So like super bare minimum wage, and just worked my way up working with them. And then from there, went on my own because I started working for HGTV. So it was not a, hey, I'm going to get up and I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I just always pushed and wanted to do more. So that's how it kind of ended up here.
Oh, I love it. And isn't that how all of our journeys begin, though, right? Like, nobody wakes up and they're like, yes, I really want to start a business and, work 24 hours a day.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah. It's something that you kind of fall into, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just laughing because it's the connection. So like, I spent so much time at the Benjamin Moore on Queen, we were flipping properties. Yeah. And like, what color should I use? And what should I do? And this is the air of the house, as if they're going to tell me all the magical.
Right.
But they actually helped a great deal.
They do. It wasn't, they weren't always like that. So it really was the 90s, the 80s and the 90s, because the market was so bad. The Canadian section of Benjamin Moore really had less money, as most Canadian companies are, and they have to do more with less. So they kind of worked it out to figure out, how do we sell more? Paint was always hardware. It was never considered color. So color was the other side. We don't care about that. We only care about the good old selling of hardware. So they did not focus on that. And there were really no women that worked for the company. There was me, and I was like super young. I was in my early 20s, and my boss, Leslie Harrington, and she was brilliant. She could see that color was the reason people bought hardware, and as they termed it. And she was really instrumental in helping the Canadian company understand that. And I was very fortunate to work with her and started to think how she thought in terms of how to see a product differently and make it interesting. So, now we think of color as being the main reason people buy paint, but it wasn't always.
Oh, interesting. And we're all in very competitive industries. Like Jane's in real estate, I'm in coaching. Obviously, you're in design. How do you stay innovative? And I mean, the economy is not helpful right now. How do you stay cutting edge and innovative?
And I do think about that, and so for us, staying ahead is thinking about what the market is doing. I'm not really a magazine reader or anything like that. I like to travel and see what other parts of the world are doing and to delve into other parts of creative fields like fashion or real estate and see what they're doing, because it informs interior design, basically how you put your interior together. So I think because I never went into it, I went into it as a lifestyle and just creative thinking. That to me, that motivates me, like what can we do that's different? I'm not a great let's follow the rules. I've recently discovered, as my team has pointed out to me, that I am a bypasser. I'm like, oh, let's just work around this, this little problem. Let's just work around it. And that suits me the best if I can work around a problem. And design is that. It's basically a series of multiple problems that you're working around. So it fits me well. So I don't know. I think that's what keeps us interesting, because we don't care about what the bigger market is doing. We just care about what can we do to solve this particular person's problem and make it interesting for them.
I love that so much. Like, there's something I talk about a lot in our coaching. It's called raft builders, and they're always looking for the way to serve, to be of influence, but also the way forward. They're so solution oriented. So I'm picturing like a kid hiking. If you can't go under it, you go over, right? It's like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And how do you so now, having developed this business, and how many years have you been running the business now?
Since 1997, so we're close to 30 years basically in the business. Now, I worked in commercial design prior to that, and did retail design and worked with a couple of architects. So my career is probably almost 40 years, but certainly for having the business, it will be 30 years in 2 years. So.
Oh, congratulations.
That's a big milestone.
So over 25 years, yes.
It is a big milestone. Like when you look on the statistics of women entrepreneurs who hit 10 figures, it's less than 1%, right? Like it's very, very small. So at this point, having this success and having a legacy in your business, how do you empower and influence other people with your design business?
So it's been a change to think of myself that way. And like, if you've been in business a long time, you don't tend to think of yourself that way. You are still the driver, right? Especially when you're the one who owns the business. And I'm like that with the people who work with me. I'm like super just get it done. Like, I don't understand why we're talking about it. Can you just get it done?
Oh my goodness.
And they're always
we don't relate it.
Yeah.
They're so patient and tolerant, like they really are like, okay, and I'm like, I think they're humoring me. I think that's what's going on right now. But I never thought of myself as, I don't know, in coaching what the word would be, but a coach or
a mentor, right?
Like because I was always in my head, like, what's the next thing? What do we have to do? How do we stay afloat? How do we pay these bills? For sure. And it's only within the last couple years that a friend of mine who is kind of a business coach too, by pure chance, I happened to run into her and I was talking to her. I'm sure this is like what you do all the time. You're like, okay, you're an idiot. You didn't think of that. But she's like, well, how are the other people like in the business? Like, how are they doing, the team? And I was like, I don't know. I'm just thinking about the business. And she's like, well, how did you feel when you started? And I was like, oh my God, wow, I am not a helpful person. Like, I really need to start thinking about what I can do to help them as well. Not give it to them, but help them find the answers that I could never find, and had to spend.
Empower them
another
to
30
find
years,
those.
Like they don't have to have a 30-year journey. Some of them will pick a 30-year journey because I know I would do that. I would be like, don't tell me. I will work it out myself. I will work around it, which was just dumb. But because I could have got here a lot faster. But I think that trying to help them see some of the opportunities and to think differently has really been what I've been really spending the last couple of years on.
That's amazing. And you're probably being hard on yourself because a lot of people who have had the opportunity to work with you, I'm sure, considered you a mentor and considered you to serve them in their career far more than you think you have.
I think the people that stay probably feel that way. The people who leave, because they see more or they see something different. So they wouldn't necessarily see it that way. But, the people that are the toughest on you are usually the best for you because there's a reason that they seem hard, or you find them hard because you're not clicking or you're just not seeing. Everyone has something to offer you. It's whether or not you're willing to take it. And I'm a bad willing to take it person. Again, keep sensing a little bit of a theme. I'm like, really, how hard can I possibly make this? Because I like to know the answer, but over time you realize, wow, you can give more to people and make it better for them. You don't have to make it so hard on them.
And I think there's seasons, there's seasons to building, and it's so all-consuming to get it off the ground, to get to that first decade, second, and you're recreating yourself with the business because your energy is flowing in. So I think it's interesting. Like I've reflected a lot that I've always gone against the stream, and even talking with a therapist, she's like, you always have, but I'm like, maybe I don't want to anymore. I don't care to. I don't need to. But I wouldn't have said that even 2 years ago. I was like, no, we're going to carve it out, right?
But it's hard to stay in business. Like you guys have stayed as well, and I think that's what people don't recognize, especially for women. And I'm not making a difference with men and women because of gender. It's because of the way society is organized. And I think that women do, like, I just know in our business, I don't know about yours so much, but I know that we just get stuff done. And we don't talk about it. We don't bill for it. We just take care of it. And I notice in lately that I'm like, oh my God, no one else is doing this. This is, if we don't do it, it just doesn't get done, or it's left and it doesn't get organized properly. And I feel like that's one of those things that recognizing that that's a major difference that is really something that I wish other businesses saw and were able to charge or bill for it. And we're working our way through that. But it is an important aspect that I think women-based businesses do just take care of stuff, and it needs recognized.
Oh God,
I agree. This is literally like the conversation.
Mowing the lawn, I'm cleaning the house. For a revisit, she's cleaning their house. I'm like, how did this happen?
I was like, I don't clean our own house. You know what I mean? But I think as women, we have the ability to anticipate the needs of our clients. And so that kind of leads me to my next question. And just how do you create these trust-based, long-lasting relationships with your clients? Because I think that's at the end of the day, when you have the staying power that you've had, it's because of anticipating other people's needs, because of getting stuff done without having to be asked. And that is how, referrals flow in, essentially, 100%. Right?
So, and I think it is, I grew up in an era where the formalization of design and the financialization, I don't know what you want to call it, monetization of it was there, but not to the degree it is now, because the residential house business really wasn't as big as it is now. Now we relate to some of these homes as, machinery, like they're this sort of their own little machine that's kind of working through, and people recognize that they're building these homes because they're going to live in them, but they also are going to sell them. And there was a time when I worked with people and they never thought about selling. This was their home, and it just accumulated, and it just was them. It didn't change for 30 years.
Right. It was a reflection of their personality, of the life that they built in their home. And then it's always interesting to me because I'm in real estate, when I go into these homes that maybe have had families living in them for, the past 30 years, and we try to discuss, okay, but now it's time to market the home. And they're just like, this is so far from what we ever considered when we were designing the space. Like, it was for functionality, not for marketability. Right.
So they weren't thinking about that. So in that time frame, you develop relationships with people. And I'm a strong outward facing kind of person where I'm sure, like you in real estate or in coaching, they're both very connective tissue to the person. So you develop that connective tissue. And I'm sure lots of people are like this, but I super duper care what happens to people. And I do worry that I'm like, oh my God, we should have thought of that. Why didn't we think about that? Of course someone needs that, so those 30 years of stress and anxiety about it, allows you to access those people as they move through their journey. You move through their journey with them. And that's that connective tissue. And some of the clients, I just email now and I'm like, hey, how's it going? What are you doing? Just wondering how you are. Because they brought something to me too. I've been fortunate or not, I don't know how you look at it, for choosing clients as much as they choose us. We choose back. I've occasionally made a mistake and we're just a bad fit because I'm an emotional person, in the sense that I am very anxiety ridden. So some people are just very high anxiety and I can deal with those people, but other people I can't. And I'm like, I'm not a good fit for you because it just doesn't work, but you have to learn that. That's where I need a coach. I would say that's not for you. So lesson learned. But for the most part, I have a strong relationship with those people. I'm not sure the business is like that today. Some of the younger designers, I'm like, sure that's how the business is.
More transactional, right?
It is more transactional. Absolutely. It's different.
But I think your home is so personal, right? So I think much the same as in real estate and for you with coaching, you develop these really strong bonds with the people while you're, and I mean, renovations are one of the most stressful things somebody can live through. We're about to, we're about to.
I said I wouldn't again, and here we go.
We're about to take that journey together. But emotions are high, and so as a professional, you're having to manage some of that as well for your clients, right? And take that on and lose sleep yourself over it.
And I don't think I understood that. When you're in design school, university, no one really talks about the business aspect of it. They're really only talking about the creative, which is amazing. And there's, a lot of arguments about what should be taught to you in university for design. Is it technical you should learn? Yes, absolutely. But, should you let people be fully creative because it's the only time in their life they'll ever be that? Or should you try to teach them the business? I'm sort of two minds, but learning how to have all of those in a business is trial and error. And like you said, finding the right people that you connect with who help you get there. And then other people, I'm like, ooh, that was definitely...
Lesson learned.
Yeah, that was the wrong kind of connection for my emotional state.
And who is investing in design? Is it still, the ultra wealthy? Should it be people who have that extra amount? Is it, an investment because your property is, one day you might liquidate it and whatnot?
I mean, that's a really good question. So I would say everyone should invest in design because to what Jane was just saying, your home is a reflection of you. I don't know that everyone sees that though anymore. I think there's so much online and Pinterest and Instagram that they forget what they are, that it is part of who they are. And it's okay that it doesn't match entirely what Instagram is doing. So we try to help people that even if they're sort of okay, we want that look, no problem. Let's work about how the function is really going to work. Because some things you see online, I'm like, that is just not fun. Beautiful. But let's really think about this. This is not going to work in Canada, with 4 seasons, including winter.
The big fully open walls.
Or 4 kids.
Let's really think on it. So obviously we try to do that. But I think, yes, obviously super wealthy people are doing it because it's an asset class that they're going to tap into. And then you have people who renovate because they want to stay in the neighborhood. So we do a lot of that work. The house has value, but the property has more value. So how do you make that house match the property value? So that's what we try to do as well, is sort of intersect people in some of those decisions to say, maybe we shouldn't do this, but we should do this because we know that there's higher value in doing this. And one of the things we always say is you need an agent to come over to validate what you're going to spend money on so that they can give you some direction as to whether this is worth it or not. Financially, that doesn't mean it's not worth it emotionally. If you're going to stay here, wow, do what you want.
Right. And those are conversations that I have with my clients all the time. They're like, we're thinking of doing this. And I'm like, if it's for you and you intend to live here for the rest of your, life, then then do it. But, if we're looking for ROI, let's talk about the areas that you should probably focus on.
That's right.
And so is there, how is interior design now accessible to kind of, everyone, right?
So yes, online, there's lots of stuff online. It's just, I'm sure it's like your business, but how do you know what the right answer is. There's lots of information, but there's no editation, right? No verification of it. So it used to be that interior design went through editors or through people who took out the parts that they didn't want you to see. Nowadays it's everywhere, and you don't even know if it's AI anymore. Like, you don't even know it's real, which is, I think, very hard when people give us pictures and I'm like, okay, that's a great laundry room, love that, but that's probably $60,000. So let's think about, do we want to spend that on our laundry? I
would also tell them no. So like, if you want to live there for 20 years, a $60,000 laundry room is
maybe it's a no. Maybe I understand what you're trying to get to, so let's find a way of doing this. It doesn't have to be this, but understood. So it's some of that it's highly accessible but not verified. We just don't know that it's really that real. So there's that. I would say, if you hire a designer, the benefit of that obviously is a couple hours. They're probably like hiring a real estate agent who does a financial assessment of the area and, I don't know, market value.
Should I get paid for that?
Yeah, I know, right? You should. At least that would be my aspect of looking at it and saying, this is someone who's going to help you do some things and connections, right? Like, that's what 30 years buys you, is 30 years of knowing different people who can do different things for you. That are reasonably good, in what they do and can help you do it.
And I think it's so important, like particularly with the economy shifting, like we move into the trust economy, where it's like, what's vetted, what's legitimate, who's been through it. And we're seeing that in luxury agents across North America. Like, we have our designers we fully partner with and bring them in on the project. So I think it's interesting, because we've mentioned we just purchased a new home, and it's interesting because I've fully renovated every home we've been in, either because we were turning it into triplex in the film district or beaches. And my recent home that I'm going to leave, I remember just walking in the dining room. It had the beautiful wood, and it was the only, like, the house had to be gutted. And I just kept going in. I'm like, I see the vision. I can do it. I can do it. So now I fully restored that house, like restored it to like Edwardian and all the finishes. She's like, you over improved your house. I'm like, I loved it, right? Because it was my ticket to freedom. Now we're buying a house that's more like mid-century modern leaning, nothing we have ever done. So how do you help couples or friends who don't have the same, like, I'll give you an example.
We do not have the same vision. So this is which is
give an example. So when we first got together and I saw her house, I was like, oh, so you live in an Airbnb. Like, when did you move here? And she was offended. And then she talked to people around. They're like, yeah, that's why we love house sitting, because it's an Airbnb. Like, no one lives here.
Like, minimalistic. Like, I like my space to be very, like,
that's a good description, though, of those kind of houses.
And then mine's like, I've got Klimt, and I love vibrancy, and and I remember a stager coming in. I'm like, I like to feel something. She's like, I can see that.
Like, we feel a lot in your space. So we it was interesting when we decided to move in together, and I rented my house out and moved into Kathleen's home, and I'm like, we need to just like Airbnb up your home just a little bit. Like, this is too much for me. And so in purchasing this new home, which requires, it has potential. When I say
it's more than potential. When people hear potential, you hear dumb. No, it's not.
Okay. But it's like as if you were to take a time capsule back to 1950. Like, we have the pink and black tiles in the bathroom.
Perfect condition.
Perfect condition, right? So we're already struggling with, what are we going to do here? And so, to your point, having somebody come in, like, that is kind of where we wanted to start. We were like, we need somebody to come in and give us an overall plan, and whether we do, like, we're not going to do the entire house at one time.
Well, the house calls for it because it flows together. Whereas my house, you could do room by room. No way.
It needs to be cohesive. It all needs to flow. And we have like this is the photo of the exterior of our home. And I've posted it to Instagram to kind of take a poll as to...
She posted a picture that wasn't color correct, but we're going to move forward.
We can move forward, but I would love for you to shine some light. And I'm sure you're going to guess who likes which, probably just based on that.
So it's a bit color altered, but that's fine.
So this is the current.
Oh, that's so cute.
It's very whimsical.
Whimsical. And so...
And this is her vision.
Oh, wow. Okay, it's more whimsical now.
It's a bit circus, perhaps.
So
perhaps.
Yes, no pressure, but who's right?
We live in the circus. Do we want it to be our own? Welcome to the big top.
Yeah, so I personally would not do the black and white.
Okay, do you think all black? Because I also had ChatGPT run that through.
So yes, I'd say all black, only because I did a lot of research with color when I did work with Benjamin Moore and after. So in the market, there's value associated to colors. So I'm sure you guys know it instinctually when you look at things, but so in the residential market in Canada, this is not, and in Eastern Canada, as in Central Ontario, this is not true of the West Coast or of the East Coast, but there is high value to neutrals and colors that are perceived as heavy neutrals. So black, dark green, deep navy, dark gray, deep beige. So those are the colors, if you want to serious up the house, you would do instead of what you currently have.
Smurf blue.
I did a beautiful job researching the royalty of indigo blue and the painters
really trying to
who had to get it and waited to finish their paintings. You know, the history is just so beautiful.
Yeah.
Trusted color. Trusted.
It's true. So I think that's where, now, if you're not selling the house, it doesn't matter. Again, you just pick the color you like.
We have to live there.
We might live somewhere else one day.
I just always joke with people. I'm like, just think about this. Do you want to be the person when someone calls and says, where's your house? I'm trying to find it, because they're coming over for dinner. You're like, no, you're almost there. It's the one that's the big blue house. You'll find us, or the neighbor who's got a friend calling and they're saying,
right beside the blue
we're beside the blue house. Yeah, you can't miss the blue house. You don't want to be that person.
We are currently.
So long term, there's probably high potential to update the house and be amazing.
And go more neutral and dark. Okay.
I really appreciate you being here on so many levels.
No worries. The other thing I would say, and this is where why we are design, is we will often tell people, okay, you want that kind of color. Why don't we put it in the garden?
Oh, yeah.
Let's figure out a way to get that color and move it across the driveway, around the edges or the fringe of the house, because people's impression will be that the house has that color, even if you don't actually invest in it.
Oh, smart.
So there are ways of doing it because people don't pay attention. Like I'm sure people walk through a house in, I don't know, half an hour, and I can ask them, what color is the floor? And they're like, I don't know. What color was the kitchen? I think it was white. Was it white? No one unless you consciously ask them to look, they are going fully on impression, and their impressions are 99% of the time wrong.
100%.
Yeah.
Like every time I take buyers out and we'll have discussions and they'll be like, I really like this house because it had, white cabinets and quartz countertops. And I'm like, actually, that's not the right house.
Yeah, that was the other house. Yeah. So there is something to be said about selling a house with multiple colors and very different because it is memorable. And there is some research that shows that. But for the most part, people don't take a house seriously, or they underprice that house because they perceive that they have to put money into it and that it has less value.
Fair.
Yeah.
True.
And I think you do a really great job on your Instagram of authentically connecting with people. And I think, everybody has like a starting point when it comes to like media or putting yourself out there, really. And it's amazing to watch the shift as you become more comfortable or just like step into yourself a little bit more. Do you feel like all of these things were helpful in just creating that authority for you to be able to have a larger platform?
Probably. Again, when I started television, it was 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago in Canada. So there was no HGTV. There was Cityline and there was Lynette Jennings on CBC, and that was it.
Oh, yeah.
So there wasn't really any platform, and it was just by pure chance I ended up doing it, and I was hostile to doing it because I was like, I'm a real designer. We don't do TV. So, but I was forced because I was basically said, if you don't do it today, you are fired. So I was like, okay. I need to work.
Take the job.
Great. Love to do that. And it just as it turns out, that I like to communicate about design to people, not because I'm authority, but because I'm doing it every day. So you see more than the average person, because it's one thing to see it online and to watch it on TV. It's another completely to do it, because the pain of getting to that is extremely high, but no one sees that pain. Even though we try to show it, I was saying to you guys, we try to show it on Instagram. No one wants to watch it.
Nobody wants to watch the messy middle.
No. Yeah,
just give me the before and afters,
that's
right?
Yeah, that's what people want to see. They want to see, this terrible house, this amazing house, but no one wants to know what you're going to go through, because you're going to go through it soon with your own house.
Yeah.
What the pain is while you're trying to get there. So
you have to love the walk.
Yeah. So over time, I ended up doing HGTV, W Network or I guess HD and then W. Anyway, something like that, because HD didn't come to Canada until, they didn't get their license until 1998 here. And then it took time because everything, I don't know if you guys remember this, but it was Rogers and their negative billing and a whole bunch of issues in the cable market, which have since changed, obviously. So now it's a very fractured category because it's everywhere and nowhere. So no shortage of content, but that content is not vetted. So it's very hard to know what to pick, how to find stuff. Is this a valid person? There's products from all over the world, but they don't all work here. True. Some are just not good for our climate. They have issues environmentally. So it's hard I think it's harder now in some ways for people to get the right information
locally. And where do you see it going in the future for entrepreneurship, design? What trends do you see? Where do you think it's all going?
Well, I think that there is a category for it. Like, it still exists, but it's hard to go into this business. I know everyone thinks, oh, it's so fun, because people say that all the time. They're like, oh, it's amazing. You get to shop all the time. And I'm like, well, how about you go and stand in line? At Home Sense or whatever. God love them. But it's not a fast process. You don't get a bag anymore. You got to bring your own bags. You got to wrap it up. So, and I'm not complaining. It's just that's the pain reality, that no one sees. And, all they see is the net result from it. Yeah. So I would say it's a good category. Interior design in the commercial side, which we do some of that, is much more aligned with part of the architecture of the building. So you spend a lot more time working for the chief consultant, who's the architect or the engineer, and it's much more resolved, in terms of what the interior design team does for the building. In residential, usually the lead is sometimes an architect, but it's sometimes the designer, and they kind of champion where it goes. So that part is growing as homes become more complex, and people see in Canada the value of making their home a saleable product, which is newer here. New York City, no problem. Tokyo, no problem. It's a relatively new concept here over the last 15 years.
And I know with entrepreneurs, like the emphasis on longevity, because of course, I work with, anyways, in the entrepreneurial space, there's so much on health and wealth and longevity. And it's kind of like you spend these years to make all your money, and then you spend all your money trying to get your health back. So a lot of them are
true. My God.
And you say, and they're like, you think it's a cliche, but it's reality. And I'm like, okay. But talking about, like, it's coming up more and more that they feel in Canada, we're so behind when it comes to the wellness aspect in our homes. And I wonder if that's coming up for you, because it's happening more aggressively, I think, in California and the States, where they're like, we have this special water filtration system, or our condo has, red lights on and has whatnot. Like, do you see that coming here yet?
Yes. Yeah. But those are for the clients for which they have the budgets that they can afford to do the basics and add on to it. So I think our market is different in that sense, that we like Toronto, I'm going to assume, Vancouver, Montreal maybe have probably the best markets, but and it's for the clients who know about that and are able to spend the money on it and want to spend the money on it, I guess. So that's, I was going to say, I think we're a little bit different than the States that way, where there's probably just more general, wealth in general. Sure. I think people do it here, but they do it in a smaller way. Yeah. And we try to educate our clients on issues of health in materials, things that we're like, this might not be the best.
This is going off gas.
Yeah, like it's a thing. And certainly with the last year, we've had many clients say to us, last couple of years, geopolitical issues where people are like, well, we want to make sure it doesn't come from here. We want it from Canada. Yeah, very much so. And people are really want to support Canadian artists, Canadian makers. It just comes down to budget sometimes where, they're like, oh. And we used to always say, look, you can't have people in jobs and go buy from Walmart. Like it's just the two are very different. It's great to have places like that, but at some point you still are going to have to pay more to have it a Canadian source product because you're paying the wages of people who live in an expensive country. We're not the U.S. I wish we were in some ways. From the breadth of population, we have a small population in a big country.
For sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And in closing, we're big believers that, founders and entrepreneurs drive change, right? They're the grassroots, they're establishing value products. So as an entrepreneur, if you could make one change, either in your industry or in the world, we're big thinkers, what would you want it to be?
Oh, wow. I mean, I'm probably going to give not a good answer right now, and I'll think of it and call you and be like, here's the answer I really wanted to say.
We'll post it after.
I mean, like everyone says, world peace and people to get along. I would love to see Canadian creators get more respect and knowledge in Canada, that they don't have to leave to be recognized. And I think that would be, I think that's coming, and maybe accidentally. But I would love to see that happen in the market here where people, like there are other parts of the world, like the Northern European countries that buy a lot more Northern European product. And I'd love to see us do more of that and have more makers in general, and have the government support those makers, and then the public support them too. Because I just think we are such a great country. I feel like no one knows that, who even lives here. Like there's so many smart people like you guys who want to go and do stuff, and no one knows that they're doing it because I don't know why. I'm not an expert in that, but like I see what our people that we go to make, and I just wish more people knew about that. I think that would be so great.
I think it's going to be interesting asking this question to many founders because I know in my industry, I would say it's very, very similar. Like you get pulled and the dollars come from the US and you're still fighting for a chance here. And you're like, what's going on? Right? Like we're vetted. So I think it'll be interesting because I'm assuming there's probably a pattern there across several industries because it's a national thing, not a local for sure.
Yeah. And it's hard. Like, again, people don't have the budgets here that other parts of the world have. So they're just trying to make it just get by, let alone add something else to that, But maybe things will change and it will become part of our DNA, to just invest in creative thinking more, because like this is creative, like what you're doing. And they can recognize that there's a Canadianism to it, which is great.
Yeah, which is exciting and beautiful. And hey, maybe not the way we wanted to get back into it, but here we are.
Exactly.
Well, we would love to support and collaborate on that vision, that's for sure. And thank you so much for being here and for your work.
Yeah, thank you.
No,
thank you so much. This has been so amazing. And
it's such a great idea. And again, if we could have more voices that people can find real people, and then they know what to do when they're starting out and who to talk to, because I think that's so hard now. There's so many people you don't even know who to talk to. So I think that's amazing. Yeah.
Well,
so congratulations on this. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.